Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have a very special guest, a returning guest. His name is Bryant McCullough. Last time we talked about Bill Gates and his meddling all throughout the world. You can go back and listen to that. Today, we're going to talk about the elite and the way they think, their influence upon kind of people of a different class structure than them. And I have a picture on YouTube right now of a really great movie. I highly recommend people check out. It's called The Ruling Class. You almost never hear about it, but it really is a dark black comedy about the thought processes of some of these privileged people who have money and don't have to work and how they think. But before the intro, I'm going to talk about a product that I've been taking for the last couple of weeks. It's called Magic Mind. It's located here in California, and it's really kind of a nootropic little elixir kind of that I've been taking that I think really has helped my productivity. My wife is taking it too, and she enjoys it. So when we're working, it helps kind of give you energy. It's like a nootropic, clean energy. There's things inside there that are healthy for you, and you're not over caffeinated. And there's different ingredients such as ashwagandha, people know about, some of them cordyceps mushrooms, and a lot of things just kind of help with your brain, L-theanine. So it helps increase focus and attention. And it gives you, it's interesting because it actually helps you focus without having kind of negative consequences if you take too much caffeine or energy drinks or things like that. So oftentimes if you drink too many energy drinks or things like that, you actually kind of can feel sick. But so I highly recommend this product. I'm going to put the links to it in the show notes. And I think that if you do a lot of reading like I do, this product is for you. And if you're working hard or something like that, and you don't want to have the consequences of some of these other, 5-hour energy or things like that, this is your product. So I'll put a link in the show notes. If you go to the link, which is magicmind.com, WRI, William Ramsey Investigates, you can get 40% off the subscription in the next 10 days. And then also there's a discount code, which is WRI20, and that'll get you 20% off as well. And so check it out. Again, the product is Magic Mind, and it's really a great kind of nootropic brain enhancer is what I would call it. So anyway, I'm here with Bryant. Bryant is going to join us and talk kind of about his research. He's had John Brisson on yesterday on his show. And so welcome back, Bryant. Can you talk about your background maybe for people who didn't hear our earlier show, and then what brought you this kind of interest of talking about kind of elite thought processes?
For sure. So real quick intro, my name's Bryant McCullough, originally from Tennessee, have since moved to Washington State. I would say that my research of the elite and their antics have greatly increased since moving to this state as opposed to, center of the Bible Belt. I am a professing Christian, so I feel like we should know the enemy's plans and, at least have some kind of an idea of what we're up against. So I am a father. I have children that I have to prepare for the world that is going to be the case when they're going into the workforce. And, I just think that there's almost no reason to not be aware of some of these things. It's like that's what is giving everything all this power, is everybody turns this blind eye and sweeps under the rug or just says, oh, that's just the elite and their antics. That's just, the Hollywood scene. There's always these excuses, and really, we're being compliant by ignoring.
Right. Silence is complicity, right? So what kind of things have you seen with kind of the current, maybe American or global elite? Like they're in Davos, talked recently, all these people, 5,000 people show up with their private planes and talk about their plans for the rest of us, right?
Right, and the headline for that on Breitbart was literally verbatim from Revelation. I don't know if you saw that. I
didn't see that.
I'll send it to you, and we can just put it in the show notes. But I have a direct link for that. But yeah, I mean, it literally said, what's troubling the world today? It's war, famine, pestilence, rumors of wars. I mean, just verbatim, Revelation. And so, yeah, and then of course it said Davos is the savior. So.
Right. So they're going to be our savior. These elites who talk about global warming, supposedly like we're going through this global warming phase and there's all these problems and we're the solution.
Exactly. That's definitely that's not only their I don't know what you would call it. That's their presentation, is right. As they're, I'm with the government. I'm here to help. So
Right.
that's like the
Trust us.
famous last words. Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
one of the components of these things in Davos is not just their agenda, but trying to get the population to trust them. They literally are talking about how can we engender trust in these populations. That's what they're talking about.
Well, I think we see, these kind of beta test type things go on where, everybody kind of just jumps right in and says, man, that's the mark. And what I really think it's a compliance check. They just want to know, is 50% on board? Is 60% of the vote swayable? Are 80 people ignoring, what's really real and just trusting what they see or hear on, these outlets? Or, so I think that plays a big part in that.
Right. And I think that just you saying compliance check is really fascinating because even in individual relationships like the sociopathic things, they do things to people like abusive relationships to see if they will comply. So
Exactly.
so they're doing it on a global scale, like a national
Global
population.
gaslighting.
Right.
Yeah, seriously. I like some of those catchy buzzwords that stick with people, but yeah, I really think that's a good example. And we see all this, build back better, and everywhere you turn, it's kind of like this, out of order. Every time I see a restroom, right, with an out of order sign, I always add chaos at the bottom now, because it's like everywhere you look, that's exactly the goal, is out of order chaos.
Right.
And
Ordo ab chao, right?
yeah,
I literally
mean,
just posted a book by David Livingston, who's going to come back on talking to him later this month. But his title of his book is Ordo ab chao, and it really is kind of a de-occulted look at the elite of Western civilizations in different countries. It's really fascinating because it ties into what we're talking about today.
It does, and then you see, you have the obvious distractions, the Depp and Heard, case, of course, being publicized. But we just heard, with Maxwell, how no cameras allowed in the courtroom. So that's strange alone. It's like, hey, look here, look over here, don't look over there. And that's the constant tactic, is there's always something going on that's got everybody on social media, the chatter and the buzz, and then that's when bills get passed.
Right,
It's like,
right.
it's always every time I hear just this big, if everybody's talking about Ukraine, I'm like, oh well, let's we need to put in some Freedom of Information Act requests now. Like,
right. It's a
seriously.
full distraction. The war, unnecessary conflict in Russia, where it's somewhat like 8,000 miles away from us, and we have all kinds of problems here in the States. It's really, when you think about it, it's really incredible that we even have a dog in that fight.
It is, and then when you hear, like the wars and rumors of wars, right? I remember even reading that as a child in my Bible and thinking, what's up with that? That's weird. Rumors of wars, but man, we can see it all fold out now. And then when we look at, what Operation Northwoods, and I mean, there's just so many cases of these, same exact things that we're seeing play out. But everybody says, well, yeah, but this time it's different. This isn't like that, and in 40 years, we'll have that Freedom of Information Act, on the new thing, and we'll be able to say, oh, wow, they got us again. But what they're doing now, that's different, though, this time. It's like we just keep repeating that insanity, that same thing over and over, expecting different results. May I have another, please? May I have another?
Yeah. No, it feels like that. It really does.
It does.
Like just all the tricks and then the delay. Why do we tolerate our own government hiding information from us, right? Or even corporations. Like they almost didn't have all those Pfizer documents if a judge in Texas didn't have the strength or backbone to actually say, nope, expose them now. They were going to try to keep them hidden for 75 years. So there's, I mean, JFK just gets kicked down the road. Like, oh, you don't get to see these documents. You pay our taxes. But to me, it's like taxation without representation. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, all of that is kind of stemmed from, I mean, that was a huge selling point. Trump said, once I'm in office, I'm going to release all the JFK, and it's like,
Right.
here we are still. And
Here
not
we
that
are.
not that
Um,
my vote was swayed or I was really expecting it to happen, but the point is like they, their actions never match what they're telling you, but people still trust the words that come out of their mouth. And it's really hard to, it's like you said, an abusive relationship, it's, well, he loves me though, so I guess
go
we
look
just
at
are all convinced the government loves us.
Right. Go look at the people who are in this kind of relationship with Trump. It's a weird kind of like, yeah, I really trust him. He's my savior, and he's encouraged that kind of view. I think with his whole MAGA and all this stuff, and it's like, guys, you're brainwashed. I think both parties are brainwashed, different kind of style maybe, but
Oh, for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. It's those same tactics, it's just different buzzwords for each side and it's
yeah.
different, different distractions. And actually, John Brissom had said something yesterday just about how, in the Bible, you would see, the people would, they would start worshiping their good king. So they would get like an evil king, right? And so he was
Right.
saying, I feel like Biden is our punishment for all the people that worship Trump, so.
Right.
I
That's a
mean,
good
it's
point. Yeah.
yeah, well, history has a way of repeating itself, and time seems to be a lot more cyclical than linear. I was trying to put together this timeline, and it doesn't work left to right, William. It's just like
Interesting.
you almost have to do it in a circle because it's like, okay, but yeah, but this connects here, and then this also. I mean, I'd be better off making a big board with the spheres of influence, where this circle interconnects with this circle, and you know what I mean, like
Yeah, no, it's
because
interesting you say that because I just did a show on Mark Lombardi, and that was his style, was to make these
oh.
circles and connect them together, and that was the way he could get a grip on what was going on. Like
Oh, there's my
instead of like a book.
confirmation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
seriously.
Mark Lombardi's work. It's really fascinating. He
Okay.
was before his time. He was really kind of one of the real parapolitical or hidden hand or corporate network type researchers before the
Okay.
internet. Really, it's like 30 years ago, 25 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
So he was spending some time in the library and then,
tons, lots of time in the library. Very suspicious death. Like he was just getting exposure. He was just going into art shows, and it's like
I'm
weird.
sure
It's
that's
like the opposite
completely
time.
coincidental.
Well, look at his
No.
parents. Like I put a link into this documentary, and his mom's just like something's like her intuition is like something's not right about this. It doesn't comport with what he was doing because he really wanted to get recognition, and that he was getting that recognition that he wanted, and like, okay, now I'm going to stop and I'm going to go hang myself from a sprinkler or something. It doesn't add up. Something like that. He's in the same group as Castellero. There's a couple other guys who kind of got close to this network, this elite global network, and they ended up in a really bad place. So.
And when was his untimely death? How long ago was that?
2000. So right
Okay.
before like 9/11, like I think it was March 2000.
So
He's
they were still
50.
doing the sprinkler then. They didn't switch to the doorknob yet.
They didn't do the doorknob with the red handkerchief. Yeah, no, they hadn't done that one. But
Oh my
they
goodness.
said, well, he did it because it was locked from the inside. But that handling doorknobs and
Yeah.
keyholes is Intel 101. That's like the first thing they teach you is how to mimic a key. All over the
Oh,
world.
for
Really.
sure. No, you can get on YouTube right now and just find,
Believe it or not, yeah,
Yeah.
that's cakewalk for Intel people. That's super easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, Lombardi is a really important piece of kind of looking at the puzzle, at least in that time, what he was looking at in the 90s. And so much has happened since then.
Oh, for sure. Well, I'd say that's a pretty decent segue to start talking about some dates and some things.
Right.
You referenced the 90s. I think I'm going to start. Let's do September 11th, 1990. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. Out of these
I do.
troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order, can emerge. Now we see a new world order coming into view, a world in which there is a very real prospect for a new world order, a world where the United Nations, freed from a Cold War stalemate, is poised to fulfill the historic vision of its founders, and that's George Herbert Walker Bush, September 11th, conveniently 1990. And so I feel like, although that's not where, that's not where the plans started getting drawn up, but that's at least where
No.
it was made public. And it's like, of course, the enemy always mimics, right, the creator. And so, when I feel like when they speak these things into existence, right, it's all obviously it's not the same as creation from the creator, but they're always trying to mimic that. And there's a reason that they follow these standards and these rituals. And it's like, I think we talked last time, they're always willing to tell you everything along the way, and so that's where that silence is compliance comes in. And so, I would say just jump over to Wikipedia real quick, and so this article is about the use of the term New World Order in international politics. For the conspiracy theory, see New World Order conspiracy theory. So I like how they separate those two. So what we're reading now from Wikipedia, this is what the New World Order really is. What your friend told you, you click this link, right? So the term New World Order refers to a new period of history, evidencing dramatic change in the world political thought and the balance of power in international relations. Despite varied interpretations of this term, it is primarily associated with the ideological notion of world governance only in the sense of new collective efforts to identify, understand, or address global problems that go beyond the capacity of individual nation states to solve. Now, I encourage anyone to hop on and read the rest of that, right? And I have it all here, but I'm not going to put everybody through that if, we've got a lot to cover there. But
the according to the fact checkers on Twitter, the New World Order doesn't exist. It's a fantasy. It doesn't exist. Right. So that's the gaslighting. It's incredible.
Isn't it crazy? It's like,
Biden makes New World Order speeches too. You can go back through and look at his speeches. So he's right on the same team. Yeah.
Well, it'd be really interesting if they started pulling up a bunch of stuff that Biden said in the past. That would really paint an interesting picture. But they're not willing to do that. It's kind of crazy. We see all these examples of people getting like just drugged through the mud for 20, 30-year-old statements, and we're the guy that has the most offensive ones of all. They just. Man, they're buried and scrubbed, and I'd say it's getting harder and harder to find any of those at this point really if you don't already have them saved on a thumb drive somewhere.
It's very true. They've actually book burned history in a lot of ways and scrubbed it or carnivored it. There's all kinds of programs out there, that AI stuff that just really it's kind of like a mini beast system. It hasn't started killing people in magnitude of millions yet, but we're seeing kind of like the genesis of the beast system, no doubt.
Absolutely. These are precursors. They are paving the way and trying to get everyone on board, right? Like, I think it's going to be a clear and conscious decision to accept the mark and deny the Father, right? I don't think it's going to be something that we're tricked into doing. I think it's going to be a decision that a lot of people make because it's the easier choice for them. It's going to be a lot more appealing than being martyred, beheaded, or banished to the wilderness with no access to, food or transportation or things of that. But I do feel like, every one of these, it's just like when we read all these headlines of just terrible things. And it's like, here we are 10 years later, when I read one, unfortunately, it stings a little bit less than it did 1,000 stories similar ago. And that's because of that desensitization. And I think they definitely use that tactic in more aspects, than just one, for sure. Another interesting kind of thing here that I was going to mention. So that was let's see here. The phrase New World Order was explicitly used in connection with Woodrow Wilson's global zeitgeist during the period just after World War I, during the formation of the League of Nations, right? The war to end all wars. And then it also says that Nazi activist and future German leader also used the term New World Order in 1928. And I'll give you one guess who that mustache man was. I think we won't go there with that name because that's probably one of those with us on YouTube here. We probably don't want to get flagged for that one, but I think anybody could do the math on that. And so then just real quick, because I mentioned the League of Nations, January 8th, 1918, 14 points laid down by President Wilson as the basis of world peace. January 25th, 1919, League accepted in principle. April 28th, 1919, Covenant adopted. And January 10th, 1920, League came into being. Secretariat established in London. So 1920, the first meeting of the Council of Paris. 1920, League headquarters moved from London to Geneva. And November 15th, 1920, first meeting of Assembly at Geneva. So that's just a little history of kind of the League of Nations there. Directly
how did
tied
that
into
work
Woodrow
out?
Wilson. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Well, I guess to be determined, right?
yeah.
So,
I'm sure
all
when
these
the
things are
UN
just
comes to into power, I'm sure that they're going to really just have the benefit of humanity in their sights. They're really going to do all great things, get rid of poverty, all that stuff. I'm sure.
so it's
Increase
actually a
knowledge and
league of
understanding.
extraordinary gentlemen, then, right?
Yeah. Right. Crazy. But yeah, no. I mean that goal's always been there, and it's becoming more cognizable. We're starting to more easily recognize this. I mean, they literally were about to do an end around sovereignty by giving the World Health Organization
Right.
force. I mean, this whole pandemic was really a end around sovereignty. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that has been one of the, the biggest beta tests that I've seen in my life. And it could even apply to my generation. I'm not sure, but, also, just sticking with that New World Order and kind of tying into, that pop culture, and I remember being, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13, right? And went to WWF, it was then. And I came home wearing my NWO shirt because I was a Hulk Hogan fan. And I wore that shirt for 3 years. And I remember my aunt, and she was like, "Do you know what that is?" "No, what is?" "New World Order." "Yeah, NWO, it's Hulk Hogan." And she's like, "No, no, no, let me show you." And I'm like, "Oh, no. It's got my favorite wrestlers and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, right? They were the New Age Outlaws, and it's just like all these kind of buzzwords that, that you just get really desensitized to hearing. And when it becomes comical, when it's Hulk Hogan that's in NWO, then it becomes a lot less threatening because we all know wrestling's fake, but
you're being initiated like in a cultural initiation to those concepts, right?
I contributed my money to purchase NWO goods, and willingly advertised for them for about 3 years. It's disturbing, because they always target the children, right? It's the same with like Bernays and his marketing tactics, right? If you want to sell sugary cereal, get the kids obsessed with it. So play it during the cartoons. And when they go to the store, they'll beg their parents until they get their way. You're guaranteed to make sales.
Right. That's the whole thing about the Happy Meal at McDonald's is they get the kids and the kids poke the parents to get them to go to McDonald's.
Yep, and then they're going to spend $30 when they're there,
Right. My understanding is in the wrestling community, there's also like an occult guy now who has tattoos and he's like the black magic representative. Have you heard that?
I'm not familiar with some of the newer stuff, but I can tell you, the Undertaker, was a huge thing. Kane, but it was Kane, but obviously the, Kane. Yeah, the evil Kane, the mark of Cain. And so they were brothers, right? The old Undertaker and Kane. That was a big deal then. And yeah, there's always kind of been those really occultic undertones in that. And Vince McMahon's actually a pretty interesting guy as well. That's probably a topic for another day. But if we want to, there's so many examples of this, them using these words in pop culture and making references and familiarizing people with the term and then making it almost comical. It's a lot of times I talk to people about things that are real operations that you can show a freedom of them. They say, "Man, you watch a lot of movies," because that's the plot to like 20 movies. That way, it's really similar to like search results, right? And so like I was using this example recently, when everybody started talking about God, I'm not going to be able to think of the name now, but it's the newest Call of Duty. Oh, Vanguard. Is it Vanguard, I think? Yeah, Vanguard. And so everyone was talking about Vanguard about this time last year, and it was pretty popular, search And so Call of Duty named their newest game Vanguard. So now when you Google Vanguard, what do you get? You get search results of people playing Call of Duty, where to buy Call of Duty, what system, and they do this again and again. There's so many. I had a few examples that are lost to me now, but it's not really hard to find a couple of those. When something starts to really gain some traction and people are talking about it, as opposed to just scrubbing it, it's much easier to just flood the search results with new results, and then you're forced to dig through 10 pages to get to the, and most people won't. If they don't give up after 3 or 4 mouse scrolls, they're not going to make it past 3 or 4 pages. So it's just kind of interesting there how they, I've said you don't need a DeLorean really to go change the past. You just change the search results, because you got to think this is, these days, if somebody's unsure about something, you can't remember the name of a movie or an actor or a fact, right? It's Google is a verb. Google it,
Right.
I mean, and so if you change those search results, then now the truth is whatever they're, it's
right. No, do you know that the Google search is totally skewed, and all of those results are a lot of those people have paid Google to be on there. So like you're getting the results that you might think that it's some objective thing of hits or who has the most hits. No. You're getting what they want you to see. So it's people use that Google search engine. DuckDuckGo isn't much better. A lot of these search engines are total information kind of hall of mirrors type stuff. They don't have your best interest in mind.
No, not at all. And I think anything, even if it starts out organically good, it's going to end up co-opted or it's going to disappear, especially when we're talking about that World Wide Web, that www, which is actually like a vav. And, it's always right there. The answer is always obvious. It's that, the Occam's razor, right? I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's really just they're giant pieces of crap. It's not some weird series of coincidences that led to these unfortunate events that we wish we could have avoided, but it just wasn't possible, son. That's never the case,
Right.
So yeah,
it's true. And I mean, it kind of goes into elite and all through time, and maybe in the Western, maybe every country is that. To stay on top, they have to kind of go to war against the other people. And I mean, I think that's like one of the why people get attracted to communism is that you're trying to erase these the difference, the wide broad differences between like the ultra wealthy and then the peasants. That's the whole goal. It didn't work out, obviously, but you can see why at certain times people found that attractive. That's probably why that communistic worldview is more fashionable now than that I've ever seen in my lifetime.
You make a very good point there. Definitely the same for me. You might have a couple years on me here, but I would say that definitely applies. It's just disturbing. It really is, and it's getting to the point where you're doing a lot of mental gymnastics at this point if you're not seeing things as they are.
Right.
And now maybe I would say in certain cases, not to pick on a certain generation, but let's just use the boomers for example. But they their worldviews have been shaped by a news that maybe they could have trusted a little bit more, before the Mockingbird. And so it's kind of like that golden age of television. When it came out, it was all Andy Griffith and Leave It to Beaver and the stuff that you see on TV now, you would never have seen. They would have boycotted, right? But that desensitization,
they would have burned it down. They would have burned it down. If you put this to somebody in the 50s, they would go crazy. They would be storming the streets, shooting people. We've just been conditioned. Yeah,
we have completely, and to the point that it doesn't really even trigger emotional responses to most people. They're just like, even if they don't agree with it, even if they think that it's depraved, at the end of the day, they're not willing to push back. They just say, well, it doesn't directly affect me, or it's that old case of, I can't remember the example, but it's just kind of like, they started censoring, Alex, right? And well, I don't care. And then they, oh, well, he deserves it. Well, then they start, censoring this person. And it's like, oh, that kind of sucks. I liked him, but, he shouldn't have done that thing. And then it's like, now I'm censored. Hey, this isn't fair. We should really say
Right.
something,
Right. Right. And instead of just being against censorship in principle, because I got censored, they destroyed like my YouTube channel that had tons of my work on it. They digitally book burned me, and it's a disgrace. Like Google's a joke. YouTube is evil, and so I don't know why anybody trusts these devils. I mean, they're evil. Like they should have just said, "We don't want your stuff on my site," and just let me download my stuff somewhere else. Like, oh, this this relationship isn't working out. Why don't we? I'll give you a month to
get your belongings.
Get your belongings. Yeah. No, they didn't do that to me. They stole.
They said it in the
I think it's a stealing of my property. I don't care what their terms of service TOS is. So anyway, that's just
because some of that stuff is, I wouldn't say irreplaceable, but it definitely is.
Some of my work was ridiculous. It was done like an 8th grader did it, but just having that progress, you can see like how I'm learning. Okay,
exactly.
I'm about this, I'm learning. So somebody else could have gone back and say, oh, I see how he's developing. I see where the genesis of this book was. He was researching that in 2017. It's gone. It's book burned.
Right.
It's a disgrace.
So you got
everybody
no
should be
paper trail. Yeah. No, I agree.
I think the quote you're referencing is Nie Muller. I think he made that quote about being in Nazi Germany, like they came for the Jews, and then first they came for the socialists. I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist. I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. I did not speak out because I'm not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Martin Niemöller. Very, very profound statement.
It is. That's maybe we include a link to that as well.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show.
Seriously, that could sum up everything that I'm gonna say in this hour. Because that is gonna be the as they get louder and then we get more and more censored, then there's no choice anymore. People aren't allowed to look at the facts and make an informed decision anymore. This is the way it is, and don't you dare think otherwise. I mean, how far are we from thought crime? I mean, Elon is...
We're not far. We're there. I think we're there. Yeah. I think you can't say certain things and then they'll incinerate you. Yeah.
Yep.
They'll incinerate your job, your life,
they're not
your reputation.
Enforcing the law at this point, but I think they're getting the data. It's almost... You can't even deny it. You can do some tests at home, have a conversation with somebody about just the most random thing you've ever heard of, and then go check out the advertisements for that thing on Google, like a giraffe brush, and then if they have one, you'll get an ad for it, because there is something that is always just as simple as if I say, hey, Siri, right? Like, how does it know that I said that if it wasn't already listening? But the world believes it doesn't start listening until you say, hey, Siri. How is that logically possible?
It's they've proven that it's constantly listening to you. They're constantly getting data from you.
If you have that conversation with anyone, the two most common responses are you're crazy or I don't have anything to hide.
Right. It's just it's a weird response too, even that response.
It is.
Why would you let somebody get into your innermost thoughts? Actually, my next show, we're going to be talking about voice to skull, voice of God technology that they developed in MK Ultra. So people want to stay on the next 20 minutes.
To that one, man.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because I think it ties into the school shooters. Like they have technology they can apply, and it goes back. It goes back pre-internet that they can apply to.
How many of these people call the cops and say, hey, I think I'm the guy on the news. I think I'm the guy you're looking for. It's like, how does that
there was a really interesting video that if you just type into your search engine shooter heard voices, you'll get a list that is longer than you'll ever expect. You'll just see all these shooters that were heard voices, were schizophrenic, and they can make you schizophrenic now. I mean, it's really scary. Like, so many of these guys are in the hands of psychologists and stuff like that. It's just,
I remember stumbling across that. I can't remember his name, but it was the Batman movie shooter, right? And I remember hearing that.
I'll get it. I do know his name. It is James Holmes.
Holmes, you're exactly right. And I remember hearing that, that he had heard voices. He was on the, what do they call the
Psych meds,
antipsychotic? Yeah,
SSRIs.
antipsychotics and SSRIs. That's what I was looking for.
He
And
literally heard the voice of Obama. Like that's what he said.
well, that would make sense.
No, but and you look at his like super smart guy. He was very intelligent, but constantly in the hands of psychologists. And you'll see this weird thing of these people who've been in the hands of some weird psychologist somewhere. Like
the only thing that surprises me about he heard Obama's voice is the fact that Obama was willing to do the work himself. It's like he didn't even have his agent on the mic. He was like, "Hey, buddy, here's what I need you to do."
Yeah, but go look at the history of these mass shootings. They didn't start until 30, 40 years ago. Like they coincide with all that research. They didn't happen at the turn of the
look at the gaps too. It's really interesting, the gaps in between and when they start to kind of really, gain traction again. It's like we have these pockets of like, here they all are lumped into this like 2 or 3 month period. And then we're going to go another, 4 to 8, years. And then, it's really kind of all again.
Do you want to know a really curious tie is when Epstein was arrested, there was a quick spate of mass shooters. There was one in Gilroy, and they asked him, "Why are you doing this?" And he said, "I don't know." That was like his last word before they shot him. It was at the Garlic Festival. But go look at the time Epstein was arrested. It's a weird correlation. I can't really make sense of it, but there were like 3 or 4 mass shootings right after Epstein got arrested. And you want to talk about elites? Nobody who used Epstein is in jail. That's like another point about our current culture. They don't go after the people who used his services.
No, and
child trafficking and rape.
That's a good way to tie in. The man of the hour, Mr. 183 billion, is Tesla now. It is the highest out of Toyota's 176, Volkswagen 84, Honda 45. Tesla is 183 billion, and so interesting about him. Where did that one go? Okay, here we go. 2 of the largest shareholders of Tesla are Vanguard and BlackRock.
Right.
His advocates for the COVID things, he built the RNA microfactories for CureVac, and that was used to create the mRNAs. He's received billion in government subsidies, but we're led to believe that he's this entrepreneur that wants to go to Mars for fun, and, his company is boring. I mean, like it's a joke, the more you dig in, you're just like, he's family owned an emerald mine in Zambia, I think is what.
I think so. That's where his family money came from. And he was educated at the best schools in South Africa. Private schools, public, he was a part of the elite before he came to
Absolutely. States. Yeah. And have you heard about the whole like Gates versus Elon thing, controversy that was going on? It was so here was the tweet, I think, from Elon. It was about I didn't leak it to NYT. They must have got it through friends of fans. I heard from multiple people at TED that Gates still had $500 million short against Tesla, which is why I asked him personally. It's not exactly top secret. So I think what the original thing was is maybe he had shared a screenshot of a message maybe that he had sent to Gates asking about why he still had a short against Tesla, I think is how that all began. But it's just really interesting that these are like 2 of the most relevant names, right? And it's it's like the perfect distraction, it's the herd and the depth thing, that how much have I heard about that? I have not watched one single clip. I have not watched nothing. I haven't listened to the audio. I think I did download, yours and Roberta's talk about it. I haven't listened yet, but I know so much about the case just because hearing people at work having the conversation, and then everyone wants to bring this thing, she pooped in his bed. Can you believe that? I'm like, I can't believe that you care. It's like I got all this stuff I've been telling you for a year to look at, and you won't even click a link, but you want to run and tell me that Amber pooped in Johnny's bed. It's like out of the grand scheme of everything, like that is going to always be the general public's main focus, is kind of that, and Hollywood's created for that. These pedestals are placed to put people on, and
Right.
really the people don't care who it is. It's just who's on the pedestal. They get told who to care about, who to follow, who to,
True.
a
Absolutely.
blue check mark. It's, it's appealing. It's like, oh, I know somebody that's verified. I'm more important now, and it's just like, I can't make
It's really
sense of it.
frustrating. Yeah. Like, why do people even, like, how did they get people hooked into Depp, Heard, or Ukraine? Like, Ukraine is important to the viability of the United States. And Ukraine is one of the biggest jokes because the U.S. installed Zelensky. He is a puppet, and he got rid of all political other oppositional parties. He just outlawed him. He's basically a dictator installed by the U.S.
Well, I'm sure you know about the series, right? That he played in. It was like pretty much him playing himself now, but before he was himself now.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll have to get the name of that. I can't for the life of me remember. Maybe somebody in the chat will pop in with it. But yeah,
And the
that's
U.S. has
alone
made
is
him.
crazy.
Yeah, he's made him into like a fictitious figure, like this great liberator. It's pure propaganda. It's worse than anything the Russians have done.
Yeah,
They're saying it to the States. Like, I can't believe that the U.S. population doesn't believe they're being propagandized. It's a total joke. We're being shoved propaganda on the daily. God.
it's true. The formula thing is interesting. I'm sure you've seen everything going on with the baby formula. I don't have
Yeah.
babies. I do know some people that do, so I do know some people that have affected directly. But are you familiar with bio milk? That's with a Q.
Bio milk. No, I'm afraid of the name.
Yeah, you should be. Who owns it? Everything that starts with bio, right? So U.S. Farm Bio Milk is artificially producing human breast milk, claims that it is better for the environment. Bill Gates says, along other investors that helped Bio Milk raise $21 million in October of 2021. So then the Gates Foundation paid The Guardian $3.5 million, and immediately The Guardian published a hit piece criticizing breastfeeding as bad for a mom's mental health.
Wow, that's incredible.
And then look where we are today.
We are in some kind of Luciferian nightmare society where they're conditioning everybody into like Sodom and Gomorrah. It's off the charts. It's like right in front of your face. It's not coming. It's here. We are here. Oh, it's so brave and proud that your child is 11 and going through gender reassignment. I mean, irrevocable, like things that I couldn't even imagine would be acceptable conversational topics are happening now. Like that whole story, like you're changing your gender. That's full on like Luciferianism, non-binary crap. It's all Satanism.
Well, I guess
it overlaps with Satanism. It's the same thing.
It does. And I guess that's another good segue there. So Newsweek, Laura Ingram's guest says trans people will destroy gender norms to create a new species altogether, human and part machine. Transhumanism, right? Humanity will be radically changed by technology in the future. We foresee the feasibility of redesigning the human condition, including such parameters as the inevitability of aging, limitations on human and artificial intellect, unchosen psychology, suffering, and our confinement to the planet Earth. And that's Transhumanist Declaration, World Transhumanist Association. So those are pretty, I mean, here's real quick rundown: transhumanist values, radical opportunity, existential danger, human agency, no easy options, human well-being, individual well-being, mutual responsibility. These are all, this is their statements. So I'm not, I'm not on board here. It may sound that way if you're just tuning in. But, what's next, right? By August 1st, 2022, the Intergovernmental Negotiating Body will meet to discuss progress on a working draft for an international instrument on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. 2023, the negotiating body will deliver a progress report to the 76th World Health Assembly. In May 2024, the proposed instrument will be presented for the adoption of the 77th World Health Assembly. Flash forward a little bit, you've got the 2035 agenda, right? That's so ahead of schedule. It's now called Agenda 2030. We've got sustainable development goals, no poverty, zero hunger, good wealth, health and well-being, quality education. They have these selling points for these things. But then when you also look at sustainable development, you find out it's moving people out of the rural areas and into the smart cities where they have smart meters and they have 5G, and 6G is already ready. It's just not available. And, we're constantly just forward. Gene therapy. Jeff Bezos is funding research to regenerate cells and slow the aging process. Why is it always these same names? Brain upload. Elon Musk thinks one day we could put our mind in a computer or a robot. It's always these same players. The big three. Whatever
Gates,
you want to call it.
Bezos, and Musk are not. They're helping everybody move from one pen to the next pen, right? All the cows.
Yeah. Have you heard? Did I tell you last time about the GMO bananas?
No, but yeah.
Human health trials planned in the U.S. for GMO banana that is supposed to save Africa. No animal feeding trials to test for toxicity, and the Gates Foundation spends $10 million to fund this exact experimental GMO banana. It's just. Everywhere you look.
How can you trust these people? We talked about Gates and the seeds in Africa and how they're like just working farmers over and making them pay millions of dollars. Like, how would you trust anything these guys have? It's unbelievable.
Right. And all the money that they spend on research is not to find a way to end world hunger. It's how to find a way that they can find out if you're using their patented crop, or find a way to kill your crop if you used it. Or, if a farmer has his own crop, well, let's blend, let's let the wind carry this Terminator gene over there to him and shut his operation down. And then he'll be forced to buy seed. That's where all the money gets buried. It's never for the good. Now they use these, like I said, sustainable development goals to sell the deal, but
they have these nice
little below the surface. Yeah,
but
of course.
You can go look at the World Economic Forum and all those things, and these guys are all tied into that. And you're going to own nothing, be happy. It's just like, oh yeah, this is so great. So you'll just be renting. I mean, that's basically kind of what the United States has turned into through mortgages, and the way that the financial structure has changed is you're renting already. Most people, their mortgage is just a payment. They actually don't get any equity if you're on a 30-year fix or something. So you're basically getting rent from a bank. And back in the day, my dad bought his first house for like $36,000, and he made, I think, $4,000 or $5,000 a year or something like this. Is what happened with inflation. But like, he could pay that house off. He owned the house. Like, there wasn't some bank meddling with it where he had to keep paying this mortgage. Like, he literally owned that. So raised his family. Like, my generation, not too many people own.
No, it's proving to be harder and harder at this point. We left Tennessee because it's federal minimum wage, $7.25 an hour still. Maybe they went up to $7.50 since I've been here. I've been here about 5 years now. But it made financial sense to move here, and my wife had family here. But then we get here and we find out the trade-off, right? For that high pay, we got all these, if you look, I think Washington, where I'm at, it's not, but it's because of where I was at in Tennessee was a college town, and where I'm at now, it's a farm town. So it balances out. I make more and pay less, but that's not applying very much anymore because milk is up to $4, gas is up to $5. I mean, everywhere I look, I'm paying triple now, and I'm only making like half of or double what I was making back home. So it's not balancing out as much anymore, but it's disturbing when you see like Inslee here. You're probably familiar with that name, Jay Inslee. Yeah. I think Trump referred to him as a snake.
Right. Wasn't he the governor?
Yeah. Yep. And so of Washington here. And so I think I was reading by 2025, they're banning the sale of gas-powered lawnmowers, weed eaters, and generators.
Wow.
So I think the mowers and the weed eaters is a distraction from that last one, the generators. I do believe that we're going to see a blackout in our lifetime, and I think
It's
it's going to be
unbelievable.
once that IoT and IOB, the Internet of Things and Internet of Bodies, and maybe after the sustainable development and when we're all pushed into these cities, but once we're completely reliant on that. I mean, right now, if I use this example a lot, right? When I was a kid, I could just get on my bike and go anywhere and I would find it, but now, like my kids, they like want to punch in the address to how to get to work. And it's like they've been there, they've worked there for 2 years. Why are you
Right.
using navigation to get to work? Oh, well, because it shows me traffic and it tells me this, but they become so reliant that they're not paying attention to the way that they get there. Or let's say that, God forbid, one of my children get arrested, right? Like, how are they going to call somebody? They don't know anyone's phone number. When I was a kid, I knew like 150 phone numbers by heart, but we have a contact list. We don't need to know these things. It's just like facts, we don't have to remember facts because you can just look it up. You
Right.
don't need you don't need memory verses anymore, right? That's not even a thing in Sunday school anymore, memory verses, because you can do a keyword search. What's the point?
Right.
Because you grow so reliant on this system that a flip of a switch, boom, you've got people that don't know how to cook because they've been using DoorDash for 3 years. You got people that, I mean, people are going to
Right.
starve to death. People are going to
Yeah.
not get their medications. People are going to
Yeah.
not have any clue what's going on in the world or if there's a storm or a tornado, I mean, it's just,
Right. It's
it's
going to
going to
be
be
crazy.
utter chaos.
It'll be
Yeah.
total chaos. Total
And
chaos.
like I said, you're going to have all the people of this city shoved into this 500 square foot, stacked on
Right.
top of each other, shipping containers. I picture like Ready
Right.
Player One, if you've seen that, right?
Yeah, no, that's their plan. That's the way, and then they can totally control you, feed you the information, feed you the food they want. It's a dark dystopia. We're already kind of in a dystopia, but it's going to get even worse. Brian, I got to wrap it up. I got another interview. Where's the best
You
place
know
for
it, brother.
people to reach or contact you?
So you can always email me at followeroftheway85. That's at gmail.com. You can find me on Buy Their Fruits. That's my official podcast that I've launched now. It's available on all the platforms. I still do Cosmologium Radio with Aaron Miller. I do have a bit of an Instagram presence for the show Buy Their Fruits. I'm really not big on social media at all, but if you needed me, wanted to talk, if you had questions, feel free to reach out. I'm here. William, I appreciate your time and you invite me back. And I definitely want to get you on Buy Their Fruits soon.
Anytime,
And
anytime,
I
anytime. I'm
love it,
glad to
brother.
have you back. Great. Yeah, love you too. Thanks for sharing all that information and knowledge. And let's do it again soon. Have a good one.
You got it. All right.
All right,
Thanks,
cheers.
William.
All right, bye. Cheers. Stay there. Stay there.